Alright. Let's look at certain basic ideas of sentence formation. Now, one thing is very crucial to understand, that sentences are always in the form where there is a subject and there is an object on which subject is acting. So verb, essentially what it does is it tells what one entity is doing. You can think of it as two things. So either it could be a person or it could be a thing, right? What verb does is it defines an action. That's all it does. So you don't have to worry about what subject or object really means. What it means is, simply speaking, that when you're constructing a sentence, generally you're either describing something or you're trying to create a relation between two objects. It's just that in language it is called as subject and an object. So it's not like a subject cannot be a non-living thing. Something like Taj Mahal is a beautiful building. So there's a description involved. Something is something. There is some kind of relation of one thing to the other. That's all it means. So sentences will always be in this kind of a form. Having said that, let's try to understand how many forms are there and how to put sentences in correct form. So whenever there is a form like this, something like I am, he is, she is, it is, they are, we are, next to these only three possibilities exist. Either it will be a noun or an adjective. Adjective means something that says something else about the noun. So it qualifies, says something about the noun, qualifies the noun. That's what adjective means. Or it will be a continuous verb. So I can say something like I'm falling, sleeping, walking, so on and so forth. And this is a continuous verb. Actually speaking, every time when we say continuous, there is this ing involved. And this shows that there is a continuous state of movement which actually makes it something else that we call as gerund, which converts it into noun. But for the sake of convenience, we can call it continuous verb for now. Okay. So every time we say I am, he is, sleeping, falling, walking, she is, it is, they are, walking, we are. Okay. This verb, which basically this are, is, or am, it's a derivation of this verb. It is derived from this verb, which means be. So it's used in different forms depending on what pronoun you're using. Now, instead of he, she, or it, you may also use a name, something like John is the effect is going to be pretty much the same. So what kind of noun? He is, let's say, tall. Well, tall will be an adjective. It is a tall man. Man being a noun, it says something about man. She is pretty. It is something like warm. Warm weather. Weather being a noun, this being an adjective. So every time we are using this kind of a sentence, especially when we are speaking, it's very important to understand that we should use correct and simplest forms. We don't need to use very complex forms while speaking. So if you work on fundamentals, it becomes easier. So one by one, let's look at other ones also. Something like, now if the same thing becomes past, then it will be, instead of I am, it becomes I was, he was. That's remarkably simple. She was, it was, they were, we were. Again, either noun or an adjective or a continuous verb. It was raining. She was late. Now, so, and some, I mean, these three actually are interchangeable, because ing, whenever we add ing to a verb, it becomes a gerund, which is basically nothing but noun. So I don't really want you to focus on whether it's called adjective or noun or continuous verb. What I want to focus on is that what is the function of this kind of a sentence formation. It is essentially talking about, it is defining something. It's defining a state of something, and that is why only something which is a thing or an object or a phenomenon, or something which describes a phenomenon, or a continuous verb which describes a state of motion, constant state of motion, however, can come after he was, it was, she was, they were, we were. Okay. Now, after simply I, not was, but I, you, he, she, it. By the way, I did not take you as an example in the last one. It, they, we. Okay. What all things can come in front of these? Simple present, I walk, I ride, you ride, he rides. Because it's a singular, so S comes after the verb, She rides, walks, reads, etc. It runs, sounds, etc. They, I and you form. They run, they walk, we run, we walk. So forms are important. In case of plural or in case of you and I, the simple tense will be, the simple verb will be followed. Now this is simple present. You can also have simple past. That means I walked or rode. It's just that you should know the form, the past form of ride. You rode. And in past, one good thing is that you don't have to worry about singular or plural. So they ran, I ran. It's going to be the same. It ran. This is a good thing in English language, that the forms don't always change depending on whether it's singular or plural. It only changes in simple present. What else do we have? We can have, in these cases, I plus simple something. We can have simple past. We can have simple present. We can have I have or he has plus something. They have. So every time we use have or has, what do we have? We have the third form of the verb, always. That means I have, let's say you want to use the word eat. To eat. That means it's a verb. I have eaten, which is the third form of the verb. I have read. I have walked. Right? He has, so on and so forth, eaten, read. They have. So it doesn't matter whether it's singular or plural. The only difference that is that if it is plural, then you have. If it is singular, then you have has. If it is the first person, that is I, then you have. Similarly, we have, it has, plus always the third form of the verb. Similarly, the same idea is with had also. If you have had, which is past perfect, and good thing about had is that again here there is a mild distinction between singular and plural when it comes to simple present. This is simple present, right? But here there is no such distinction. They had, we change the color. They had, he had, we had, it had, she had, so on and so forth. So whether it's singular or plural, it's always gonna be had because it's past perfect. Doesn't matter what it's called, again, the function is what is important. I had plus what? Always the third form of the verb. Same thing, just like with has or have. Now when do you use have or has? Well, when you want to signify that something has just happened, but it's complete. And had, when you're referring to something in the past and you're specifying. So I had eaten, or I had read the book yesterday. This becomes, now if while speaking, if you said I had read the book yesterday or I have read the book yesterday, it doesn't really make a whole lot of difference. And that's why it's best to go with simpler forms and avoid something like had. But then again, it depends on your habit, so it's not a big deal. But every time you use had, okay, you have to specify in your sentence that it has happened in the past. Something like yesterday or last year. Okay, I had met you last week. Now I'm specifying very clearly that it was in the past and the task had been done. It was complete. Right? Now, there's another mistake that people generally make, that whenever they use I did not, he did not, or didn't, same thing, they did not, same thing, always use the simple present. Always use the simple present. He did not read the book. He did not repay the debt. They did not repay the debt. She did not repay the debt. She did not try the food in that restaurant. We did not walk yesterday. So every time we are saying did not, we always use the first form of the verb. Always the first form. And this is something, again, this is simple, because why the first form? Well, you already have stated that this is in the past. This did not, or did or did not, it's already indicating that something has happened in the past. Now what about did? I did, he did, he, she, it, they did. Well, it's rarely used, because instead of using did, I would simply use the simple past form. If I want to say I did work, right? Why would you say something like that? Well, one way is that if somebody is asking you, did you work? Then to sort of make an emphasis, you can say I did work. But then there's a context to it, okay? Meaning is different here. You're trying to emphasize. The intention is different. Now, it's very important to understand the intention also. Did he go to college? He did go to college. The verb being go. Yes, in that case you can say something like that. But generally speaking, you wouldn't really say he did. What you would do is, you would simply use the simple past instead of using did. So instead of using did, you would simply say, I worked. I went to college. They went to the bank. Anything. She walked along the river. So the did is used in special circumstances. If it's not required, then you should simply use what? Simple past. So this is I, he, they, he, she, it, you. I always forget you, but you is also treated as I, so it has you and I, especially when you are saying I am, they are. I'll also say you are. Okay, that's one thing which is special about you. Anyway, now what? Well, now we have something called as helping verbs. Now it's not important what they are called. What's important is that they show a possibility of some kind. They show a direction, or direction in the sense of either in a sense of possibility, or in a sense of permission, or in a sense of capability, so on and so forth. So what are those helping verbs? Well, they are can, will, may. Its past form is might, but it's not always, rather only used as past. It is would, which is past of will, but it's not only past of will. Then you have could, which is past of can. It's not only past of can. Okay, so these are, so what do we do in the case of helping verbs? Well, this is what we have. I, you, he, she, it, we, they. I will, what do we have? I will, let's say the verb is, let's say take a couple of verbs. Let's write down a couple of verbs. Let's say verb number 1, help, sleep, read, walk, take, etc. So I will what? Take. You will always sleep. Always, in this case, what I'm trying to show you is, in this case, it is always what? Verb first form. That means simple verb. Simple verb. Why? Because when you're saying will, or let's say you're saying things like he may, I may do something, yeah, you may. What is happening is it Okay, here I did not say will here, it should have been will, but also may. Okay, so it's getting a little hodgepodge. We, they, will plus something else. Okay, they may, they might. So there is a it's understood that it's might is the past form of may, but sometimes instead of using may we also use might. There's a very slight difference. He might go to college today, so that doesn't mean that it's like it's in the past. It only means that you're expressing a slight possibility. That's all you're doing. Might simply expresses slight possibility, whereas may actually expresses some kind of possibility. Now you might ask, what's the difference? And believe me, for all intents and purposes there is none. So don't worry too much about it. What is important is that every time you use it, you use simple form, the simple present, simple verb, or you can also say simple present. Okay, so every time you use what, will, can, may, might, could, would, should, what else am I missing? Every time you use it, you use all the time, first form of the verb. Alright, make a couple of sentences. Now with these helping verbs you also have something like will be. Now I'm not using, remember the verbs, these helping verbs for may, might, should, what am I doing? Should, would, etc. Yeah, could. Every time I'm using these helping verbs, I can also use it with be. Okay, I'll just take this example of will. Will be. Okay, so something like I will be. In this case, there are two possibilities. Possibility number one, it can take a continuous verb form. So, verb continuous. That means the ing form. Take a couple of verbs. Let's say read. I'll be reading. I will be, so it's in the future. I will be reading tomorrow. Or I'll be reading in 5 minutes. I'll be reaching in 5 minutes. I'll be reaching to your house in 5 minutes. I'll be walking home. Okay, make sense? Now every time we use will be, this be actually shows the continuous form. It can also have a noun or an adjective in front of it. Okay, something like I will be done. I will be finished. I will be through. I will be a graduate. So it can have adjective or, but the form will always be this, otherwise it will be verb continuous. Okay, and so its will be is either showing that there is something is done, something is finished, something is accomplished, which means a state, or something is something, which means either a thing or a phenomenon, right? Thing or a phenomenon, which is nothing but noun. Or adjective would be something that describes a little bit something about the noun. So these are our basic forms. If you keep this template in your mind, you most likely would not make any silly mistake while speaking. Alright, that's it.